Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Once again, back on Transmission Gully, and it really is getting to be a very festive sort of place, which I guess is a reasonably good idea to talk to someone who has sort of that nicer side of the animal to play with, and that is Belinda Mackenzie-Dodds. Now, you've got a pretty hefty sort of title. It's the Community Relations and Stakeholder Manager. What on earth do you do?
Well, I am the person that is the interface between the community and our construction team. So keeping people informed about what we're doing, upcoming works. Obviously, sometimes when we make a bit of noise, that kind of thing, if people are prepared, then that's fine. It's just when it comes as a surprise, that's when people get upset. I also work quite closely with our client, NZTA, on property agreements. So things like fencing and just, making sure that all of the property agreements that were made with NZTA are followed, and we meet all those clauses for NZTA.
Okay, so it must be kind of a tricky role to manage your way through. What sort of examples of things that you've had to do to just keep everybody happy? How have you handled that?
Well, we have a number of, for example, dust at the moment is a bit of a problem. So if people are really feeling that they're affected by dust, we can offer things like having their houses cleaned, cleaning out the swimming pool, that kind of thing. Also with noise, just trying to kind of make sure that we warn people and work with them really closely and make sure that we can soften any problems that we're causing. Communication's a real key, just keeping that dialogue open.
Isn't that funny? If people know that something's coming up, they can handle it. It's when they get a surprise that's the stuff that gets them unhinged. Is that your experience?
Yeah, that's definitely my experience. Because it's such a big job and my team is very tiny, I have one community advisor who works for me and I have an external communications advisor who works for me. So obviously trying to persuade the engineers to tell us what's going on is probably quite a challenge. They love to just get on with it. So part of what I do is I go to all of the construction meetings and I listen to the engineers talking about what they're doing, and then I need to sort of filter that to pick out the things that I think that will affect the community and make sure that they're informed about them. Also, I think I'm getting quite a good relationship with a lot of them and they do actually come to me, and that's really great. But yeah, communication, just trying our best to make sure that people know what's coming so that they're not surprised. And then when we do drop the ball a bit sometimes, because every now and then that does happen, just being responsive and being able to explain to people exactly what's going on. And most of the time, if you explain it properly, and this is what we're doing, and this is going to how long it's going to take, they're like, oh, cool, okay, now I know, and that's good.
So obviously you didn't need to have an engineering degree for your role. So what sort of training did you need? Have you got a psychology major or maybe a PhD in psych?
No, actually, my degree is in humanities. There was some psychiatry and psychology, but that was a long time ago. But actually, it's more life experience. Most of the jobs that I have done have, right from being a teenager, I started working in a pub, and it's all customer services, all face-to-face customer-related stuff. And I think that gives you a really good ability to kind of handle people who are upset and kind of manage those situations. And also, interestingly, most of my previous roles have been on quite, controversial things. I worked for Telecom Mobile for a long time in the communications team around building new cell phone towers. And at that time, people were really, didn't want cell phone towers, didn't like them. So dealt with that. And then also another role I've had is on a wind farm building project. So again, people either love them or hate them. And there were lots of people who hated them. And the really great thing about Transmission Gully is that mostly people are really positive. And whenever I talk to people at public events and stuff, they're just like, oh, I'm so looking forward to it. Lots of older people, I never thought it would be built in my lifetime. So generally people are really positive and just dying to know what's going on. That's probably my greatest pleasure, is actually talking to people. I go to schools and talk about that sort of thing. And I just love it. I really like the positive reception, which makes a change for me. And yes, I don't think there's any kind of specific training. It's more a personality thing. You need to be a real people person. You need to have some empathy. And I guess some life experience, really, just kind of how it affects people. Change is quite difficult for people to accept, and just sort of helping them through that, really. And in 10 years' time, the road will have been there and they won't even really remember what it was like before. before and it'll be fine. But helping them through that change is, having some empathy, really.
So there you go. That's the human face behind the big machine at Transmission Gully, and it's wonderful. So if you do have any issues and you have need to contact Transmission Gully, quite possibly you'll be talking to Belinda and maybe one of her team regarding whatever the issue might be, and I'm sure they'll get it sorted for you. It's a wonderful place to be part of, and it's a great thing to be on, and that's Transmission Gully. I'll be back again next week, so until then, I'm Crispy for the very best little radio station around, Beach FM 106.3.
106.3 Beach FM.